Hello, welcome to my channel. I really appreciate the comments I'm getting during this whole brake install process. I'm learning a lot. I've watched a lot of videos on how to do this, and I still don't have it all down to a T. I'm a firm believer that you learn this stuff by doing and through experience. You can watch videos and things like that, but that's how I learn. I actually, I'm a software engineer, and I can read tutorials, I can practice things or whatever, but the large majority of what I learn is by actually writing the code and doing it and running the application and seeing what happens and seeing how different things work and all of that. I learn things much better that way. So by the time I'm done with this brake process, I should have a really solid understanding of everything. So there's some more additional information I'm going to add here that I got from my update where I actually bled the brake, which the way I bled the brake is what you would do if you were trying to get old fluid out or push, some bubbles out of the top or whatever. So that worked. I mean, it made the brake a lot better. But what I'm being told is that I need to do a lever bleed, and that I probably didn't even need to do that other step because I don't have any old fluid and it's a brand new brake, so we know there's no air down in the lower part, provided that Shimano did their part, right? And did their setup correctly. So I'm gonna show you what they're saying about how to do a lever bleed. So let's get into that. And I'll do that, and then I'll see if it even improves more. That'd be awesome, because the brake feels pretty dang good right now. It's not squishy at all, at least in my feel, but this is a different kind of brake. It's a Shimano. I'm not as familiar with Shimano. I'm relatively new. The first time I've actually had Shimano brakes was last year when I bought my Esker Hey Duke. That was my first bike with Shimano brakes. And now this Rustler had the Shimano SLX brakes on it, but they were just on the bike when I got it. And they felt a little softer. I felt like the lever came back. Certainly more than what this front brake feels like now. But I never bled them. I never did anything to those brakes. So this is really my first go at this. So let's talk a little bit about doing a lever bleed. Okay, so first things first. I left this at an angle. So for a lever bleed, I gotta make it parallel to the ground because this little cap is at an angle and then the fluid isn't flat in there. So right off the bat, that makes a lot of sense that there could be a little tiny air bubble just because the fluid isn't level right to the top. So that makes sense. So we're gonna make it so this is basically parallel to the ground. I wanted to say perpendicular so bad. Perpendicular is this way, parallel is this way. I do notice it's a little tilted, so I think if I, oh, I see, okay. If I turn my handlebars to a certain degree, I can actually, and I tilt this back a little more, I can actually get it pretty level to the ground. So I will reposition the camera because now you're off camera, or the thing is off camera. But yeah, I'll have to turn the handlebar this way, and because of the head angle, it actually levels this off that way. So kind of neat. All right. Which one fits? Okay, so we're gonna take this cap off again. We're gonna go put it in the off-screen clean dish that I talked about. But I'm gonna just hold it like this for the time being because I have this in my hand. I'm gonna thread this in right away. And yeah, the fluid isn't right to the top, so make sure I don't cross thread it. This is plastic, so if you cross threaded it, you wouldn't ruin the brake, you would ruin the cup though. I have to get a new one. So, and then I want to make sure this plug is in here. I mean, I guess it's not that critical right now because I'm doing a lever bleed, but basically it'll just hold the fluid in there. Let's go put this thing in a clean area. We definitely don't want to get any crap in this. Okay, see, you can, it's easier for me to see that this is level when I have the cup on there, because when I go like this, it tilts that way. As I come this way, it levels off. Definitely due to the head angle. I probably don't have to pour a ton of fluid in there because I just want to see if bubbles come up. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna try and use my phone or something at a different angle to look down in there while I pull the lever. But let's get to the pulling the lever bit before I do it, because I don't want to pull the lever right now, because if I did that I would press the pads in, because I actually removed the front wheel for this, so the rotor is not between the pads. And if you don't know this about hydraulic brakes, is it's like car brakes to do this. They automatically adjust to the wear of the rotors, and so as you use the brakes, the pads will move in closer and closer. And if you took the brake out of there and you push the pads in, they're going to think, oh, the rotor is much thinner, so they're going to adjust to that thinner thing that isn't even there. And then when you try to put your wheel back in, the pads won't open back up wide enough for the rotor to fit in. So very important not to squeeze the lever without the rotor underneath her. But I actually have this tool. I actually bought this tool and it's perfect. There's a couple ways you can do this. There is a block where you literally remove the brake pads and you stick the block up in there, and that keeps the pistons pressed out when you squeeze the lever. This tool does the same thing. It's thick enough to where it wedges between the brake pads and then holds the brake pads apart at their max and will prevent them from squeezing together. So that's the first step. So if you see there, you see that the pads are spaced apart and this tool will wedge in there. I actually put the through axle back in there because this tool won't just sit in there, and so this is kind of that kind of makeshift way of doing things. So I'm going to press this in there all the way, and the through axle will hold it in place. So that way I can squeeze the lever and this tool will stay there and the pads won't compress. You see how that works? So this is crucial. You definitely, if the pads compress, none of this is going to work. Now let's come back up to here. You can see I have my GoPro and my lighting system there. It's kind of cool. So what I'm going to do is turn the handlebars so that fluid and everything becomes level with the ground. And then when I do that, I'll pull that plug out and then I can squeeze the brake lever. I'm going to try to hold my phone here because that's what I'm using here, as I was using the GoPro there to do the filming of the other angle. And point down into the cup. If you see, I have this tripod here, and I mean, yeah, I could pick the GoPro up and hold it over there or whatever, but I think just using my phone will do the trick. Hopefully we'll see some bubbles. Okay, so this, I like to say the moment of truth. We're gonna pull this plug out. Come on, dude. All right. And we're going to take this plug and put it in the same clean spot that I have the other little cover here. Now I'm going to use my phone here. Remember to hit record while I'm doing it and kind of aim down in there. And so I'll be able to swap back and forth the angles here. So let's go ahead and record. And then let's squeeze the lever and see what happens. Oops, I'm definitely wobbly. I do not see any. Oh, wait, did we see air bubbles? I think I need to look with my eyes instead of through the camera. Move back to improve focus is what my phone's saying. This is kind of hard because I'm holding one thing with one hand. And I think I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that footage and see if we saw air bubbles. Okay, here we are. I watched that footage on my phone, and yes, right at the beginning there were a couple of little air bubbles that came up. It wasn't much, but they were there. So the problem was it wasn't in focus, so I'm just doing this without my phone just to make sure. Okay, so one thing that I haven't done yet is they say to tap on the brake with a little tool or something like that to kind of knock the bubbles out. So let's do that piece and see what happens. So I'm just trying all these things out that have been recommended to me in the comments. So let's go through the process and see what happens. So let's take my trusty concoction that I made here and tap. Not sure where to tap, but I'm just gonna tap around. I don't know how long I should tap, but I'm tapping. All right, now let's squeeze. I do not see anything. I mean, this brake felt really good. There were a couple of tiny little air bubbles that came out when I did that first attempt. Nothing seems to be coming out after I whack on it with this thing. So I am gonna go ahead and put the cap back on and put my wheel back on and squeeze the lever, see if there's an improvement. Okay, so the front wheel is back on. When I put that tool in there, it actually pressed the pads out a little bit, so it took me a few pumps to get the brake back to where it needed to be. And now it feels roughly the same. I mean, those air bubbles were so few, but now I know they're not in there. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wind this thing all the way back out. And show how much play this lever has, and you experts can tell me if this seems about right, because really there's only that amount of movement before it grabs, and then it's grabbing. Like, that feels pretty typical to me. Like, you want a little bit of play there, right? You don't want it to just immediately grab, right? So there's a little bit of movement there and then grabs. I have smaller hands, so I generally wind this thing in a little bit and get it closer. So if you have smaller hands, make sure you do this and you're not reaching way out there with your finger and having to move your hand on the grip to get to your brake lever. So of course I still have the lever in the flat position, but like that feels good to me. So you experts out there, tell me if that's too much play or something, and that means there's air in there or not. But it feels good, and it definitely feels better than right after I installed them before I did any bleeding. So and I'm gonna say it feels marginally better than the SLX rear brake that's came stock on my bike. Cool. I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I got comments, because I didn't do the lever bleed, I didn't do the leveling off and all of that stuff after I did the other step. So I'm stoked that I'm getting actual interaction with other people out there. That's what my channel is all about. I love it, love it, love it. So I appreciate your comments. don't ever be afraid to comment. My only rule is you got to be nice, respectful, things like that. You can disagree with something of mine, but don't be, you know, a jerk about it. Just say, hey, you're wrong here, or whatever, or this is the right way to do things, or whatever, right? Like, you don't have to be like condescending or mean to people. Too much of that going on in our society, to be honest. Like, I don't know where bullying came back into popularity and just being an absolute jerk online. And you know, it has been for a long time, but it's just gotten really bad in the last few years. So with that being said, I do have some parts that I ordered. Those are coming. I got a new wolf tooth dropper lever that actually mounts to the Shimano MT8100 brake levers that I have here. So I'm excited about that. I love wolf tooth dropper levers. This one is kind of I feel like it's a little hard to push, and it doesn't work that great. It actually looks like it's up against the grip there a little bit. I mean, I added the grip that has this extra rubber, which these are Ergon grips. I haven't even talked about these grips yet. Trying them out, I like them. I was buying the SM Pro titanium saddle and saw these and got them just to try them out, and I like them so far. So I also got a wolf tooth 32 tooth chainring. I have some brand new XT cranks I've been wanting to put on this bike, but I only had a 34 tooth chainring on there, and I was like, well, I can get away with that because the 50 tooth or 51 or whatever it is on the rear these days, I hardly ever use it. So if I had a couple extra teeth in the front, it wouldn't have mattered to me. But I found out that the Salsa Rustler, the max chainring size, is 32 tooth. So I had to order a 32 tooth chainring for those cranks. So I'll install that, and then I'm going to replace the SLX cranks with Shimano XT cranks. And then this bike's going to be pretty much all XT with the exception of the shifter lever. So I'm slowly upgrading it. So there you go. I really appreciate your support for my channel, and I really appreciate the comments I'm getting. So please like and subscribe. Peace.